My colleague left with his JCPOA binder, as that would have been very helpful. We've got a small chair in the back that's a little bit wobbly, and that's about the only thing you could have put under it to actually stabilize it, since it did nothing to stabilize Iran. Mr. O, you really loved the quick fire, rapid fire stuff when it came to the Biden administration. I kind of want to follow suit here, if you will, and I want to make this quick. Did oil exportation increase under the Biden administration?
Sanctions enforcement is an area that could have been improved.
Did it increase under the Biden administration? Yes or no?
Chinese purchases of discounted Iranian oil increased under the previous administration.
Did Biden delist the Houthi rebels?
Yes.
Did that disrupt 12% of global trade through the Red Sea?
The delisting itself was not the cause of the disruption of the global
Did the
trade.
increase in actual attacks as a result of delisting the Houthis increase the amount of disruption of global trade through the Red Sea, resulting in 12% of global trade being disrupted?
Iranian provision of support to the Houthis is part of the reason
Did the unfreezing of assets and the increase of oil trade give more money to Iran to be able to fund proxy militias?
I can't speak to the exact fungibility of the fund.
I actually thought that was your job. Did the currency of the rial, go up in value versus the dollar during the time the Biden administration was in place?
My colleague would be better positioned on that.
I'll allow you to answer.
Yes.
Yes, it did, because under max pressure, it's at about $1,000,000 rial to the dollar, something they haven't seen in a long time.
Foreign policy regarding Iran, focusing particularly on the actions of the Biden administration in comparison to the Trump administration's approach. The conversation touches upon a number of crucial geopolitical issues, including the status of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, the impact of sanctions on Iran, the actions of Iranian-backed groups like the Houthis in Yemen, and the shifting global dynamics involving powers like China, Russia, and the EU. At the heart of the debate is Iran's role in the Middle East and beyond. Iran has long been a central figure in global political and security discussions due to its nuclear ambitions, its support for militant groups, and its strategic position in critical areas like the Strait of Hormuz and the Red Sea. The JCPOA, signed in 2015, was a landmark agreement between Iran and world powers aimed at curbing Iran's nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief. However, the Trump administration's withdrawal from the deal in 2018 and the subsequent maximum pressure campaign marked a sharp shift in U.S. policy.
So I noticed that you had a lot of really quick, rapid-fire things on the previous administration, but not a whole lot when it came to the increase in maximum pressure that's actually resulted in the Iranian regime reducing the amount of attacks they have right now. Wasn't it the Biden administration who actually requested the IDF and Israel to launch themselves into a ceasefire for negotiations?
I can't speak to the specifics of that.
Well, the answer is yes. And had they done that, we wouldn't have eliminated Hassan Nasrallah of Hezbollah. We would not have eliminated Sinwar. We would not have eliminated many of the actual terrorist organization leads that has basically been put in place and enforced to grow stronger as a result of the weakness that the administration had shown. Look what we have today. We talk all the time about how we're so weak on Russia, but was it not the Trump administration who actually removed us from the failed INF treaty? Something that no other administration was willing to do before? Was it not the JCPOA that both General Secretary Ban Ki-moon and Gutierrez said had been violated when Iran was still shipping mid-range ballistic missiles to the Houthis when they were launching against Saudi Aramco? This is preposterous to even assume that the Biden administration had done anything to prevent the enrichment of nuclear, or that the JCPOA or Jake Sullivan or any of the others had done anything that would have weakened the regime. And I want to be very clear. There is a difference, and I think it's important to always point out the differentiation in this. There is a difference in the regime and the Iranian people. The Iranian people want a free Iran. I can tell you that
This policy severely restricted Iran's access to international markets, particularly in terms of its oil exports, and aimed to cripple the country's economy and influence. The Biden administration, on the other hand, signaled a willingness to return to negotiations over the JCPOA, albeit with several challenges and criticisms. The discussions in this dialogue largely focus on the effectiveness of this shift in policy, questioning whether the sanctions were truly enforced and whether the U.S. has done enough to prevent Iran from advancing its nuclear capabilities or destabilizing the region. One key issue raised is the increase in Iranian oil exports, which some suggest may have risen during the Biden administration, despite the reimposition of certain sanctions. The role of China in purchasing discounted Iranian oil is also a point of concern, suggesting that international sanctions might not be as effective as intended due to the involvement of other global powers willing to circumvent these measures. The conversation also highlights the Houthis in Yemen, a militant group backed by Iran, whose activities have disrupted global trade, particularly through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait and the Red Sea, vital shipping lanes. The Biden administration's decision to delist the Houthis as a terrorist organization is a controversial topic, with some arguing that it empowered the group, making the region less stable. Another significant theme is the perceived weakness of the Biden administration in dealing with international adversaries, particularly in the context of Iran's military advancements and the broader geopolitical alliance between Iran, China, and Russia. The conversation critiques the administration for being less proactive in addressing Iran's nuclear program, with some advocating for more aggressive action, such as targeting Iran's nuclear facilities to send a strong message to the regime. In addition, the discussion touches on the economic impact of sanctions, with a mention of the Iranian rial, the country's currency, which gained value during the Biden administration, a sign that sanctions may not have been as effective in curbing Iran's economic strength as anticipated. The conversation ends with a reflection on how the U.S. has handled military action and whether a more robust approach to dealing with Iran's nuclear facilities would have strengthened America's position and that of its allies in the Middle East. The broader geopolitical ramifications are also noted, with particular focus on the strength of Iran's alliances with other powers and the seeming resilience of the Iranian regime despite the pressures it has faced from U.S. policy. In sum, this discussion is a deep dive into the nuances of U.S. foreign policy, specifically as it pertains to Iran, the Middle East, and the global balance of power. It reflects differing views on the effectiveness of sanctions, diplomacy, and military engagement, and poses questions about whether current policies are addressing the long-term threats posed by Iran's nuclear ambitions and its destabilizing activities in the region. The debate highlights the complexity of international relations and the challenges that the U.S. faces in balancing its own national security interests with global diplomatic efforts.
Those who are bravely protesting in the streets, those who are continuing to try and risk their lives every single day, like Mahsa Amini did, to say enough is enough, shouldn't be lumped in. So when our colleagues very recklessly just says Iran, I think that that's a very big misnomenclature, and I want to correct that for the record. I want to go into sanction enforcement. Do you feel, Ms. Youngman, that sanctions were enforced under the Biden administration?
Not until late 2024.
And do you feel that Iran is at a stronger or weaker position right now than they were previously?
As a result of the sanctions that have been rolled out over the last few months and at the end of 2024, they are weaker, but not as weak as they could have been if sanctions were fully enforced under the Biden administration.
Completely agreed. And what I noticed from Iran is that not only are they concerned about this administration more so than the last, they've actually moved and relocated their surface-to-air missiles around Qom, around Natanz, around Esfahan, because they know that unlike the Obama-Biden drawn red line, that this administration has actually proven to take real enforcement. Do you think, Mr. Norman, that if we actually, not actually hurting or impacting or having a lot of collateral damage as you would if you hit cities like Tehran or others, but went after the nuclear facilities, that it would send a direct message to the regime that we will not continue to play weak with them?
It certainly would send a powerful message to the regime that we would not play weak with them, sir.
And I think that that's really what this administration has proven, both in the first administration and now, is that we're not going to continue to play weak with our adversaries. The China, Russia, Iran, North Korea geopolitical alignment has grown stronger under the previous regime, and it's President Trump and this administration who's continue to try and make the necessary steps to enforce sanctions, to guarantee that we relist the Houthis, to stop the the Sea of Navigation from being disrupted, and to actually, for once and for all, actually see that the Iranian people have support from the United States to overthrow a regime who's been dictatorship, tyrannical, and continue to do this, but only build and bolden themselves under the Biden administration. With that, I will now recognize, if it pops up here, and I'm not sure that they're updating it. There we go. We will recognize the gentle lady from Pennsylvania, Miss Dean.
There we go. I'm going to slide down one.